All right, it looks like we are live, and I'm so excited because I've been watching the chat start up and I've been kind of like jealous. I want to jump in and talk to you guys. So, hi, Jenny. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Amber. And hello to everyone who is joining us. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Good afternoon to Amber, who is in London. Dan is actually also in Scotland right now. So, wherever you are, Dan, good afternoon as well. I think it's Isle of Skye for him today. So today, guys, if you're new here and this is your first live and you're watching the replay, hi, I'm Crystal Lynn. I'm your friendly astrological magician. And this is our touch base every week where we get to have like spiritual time to actually talk to people who speak the language and hang out together. This is also, that's really cool, Amber. This is also going to be this week our Alchemist Inkwell episode. So thank you guys for co-hosting the episode with me, to everybody who's jumping on. I'm going to do a quick intro like we would for the Alchemist Inkwell. And yes, at the end, we will do the sign off. So you guys can all type it in together if you want to count down with me at the end. And it'll sound much less discordant than it does when Em and I do it. But Em will be back next week. I believe we also have an interview with Rebecca next week to sort of recap Sacred Spaces Getaway, talk a little bit about what is going to go on with those events moving forward. And then the following week, I think we also have an interview with Camden to talk about runes. Speaking of runes, and I want to get into this actually, hang on. Okay, so welcome to the Alchemist Inkwell. This is your spiritual podcast for grounded people. I am Crystal Lynn. Emily is out this week, so we are going to take my typical YouTube Monday Magic Mood Boost live and make it your Alchemist Inkwell episode. And so, as I was just saying to everybody here, we're going to be having some really great interviews coming up in the next couple weeks. One with Rebecca Carmichael, aka Rebecca the Ghost Guide, aka Rebecca on the Road. If you've been following her journey from where she started in South Carolina to Sacred Spaces Getaway, she is now posting all of that, and it's been spectacular to follow. It was a spectacular occasion to be able to see her there. So definitely follow Rebecca on the Road to see that. We'll be talking next week about how the getaway went, what we're going to be doing with Sacred Spaces moving forward, and all of those wonderful things to catch you up and make you feel like you've got things to look forward to and touch bases to think about, and just stuff. And then the week after that, I do think sometime in May, if it's not the week after, it's the week after, it's going to be bringing Camden back to talk more about runes, sort of a 201 on runes, which is really timely because this is happening right around the time that we're going to be doing our Nordic series in Deity Academy. Deity Academy is kicking up for the summer. That's going to last all summer long. I was actually doing the research a couple days ago, getting in some spell work for us to be able to use in Deity Academy, and also for those folks traveling to Iceland with us. Iceland is now closed, but if you're looking forward to traveling with us, we do still have spaces. Thailand is booked, but there are trips next year for Costa Rica. We still have no, not Costa Rica. Sorry, Peru. For Peru, we still have space, and there will be more trips announced throughout the year. So just letting you all know where that all is. If you want to join Deity Academy, now is the right time this week because it kicks off on May 1st. And we will be giving you guys the group chat and some materials to get started with. The first call is a little bit later this month, so don't feel like you're behind. You actually have a very big opportunity to work at your own pace with a lot of this material and to take your time getting to know different lores, different myths, different individual deities, and to work with them on an individual level. So we're going to give you a ton of resources, books, podcasts, YouTube videos, stuff for every learning type. So jump into that, Deity Academy. It's really cool. The link is going to be in the description of this video. I think it's going to be the first one if I did my tech stuff right. And here's hoping. So that is all of the updates on the news of what's going on with the podcast and all of those affiliated with it, the wonderful people that we've met through the different events, through things like this. All of you are so important to me. And I just want to give a shout out again to some people who have joined us. I see Russ is here. Jenny saying hi to you again. Jackie, good morning. Hi, Melissa. Yeah, so I'm glad you guys are all having a really good time in the chat as well. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything from Amber. Friendly reminder to everybody who's joined, this is the Alchemist Inkwell episode this week. So thank you guys for being a part of it. Amber's doing a great job of reminding us in the chat. Yes, cool. All right, so boop-a-doo. Cool. Looks like I am all caught up for now. Silly autocorrect. It does it all the time. It's fine. All right. So, how's everybody doing this week? What do you have going on? What do you want to bring up? What can I do to respond to maybe some questions about folk magic, about astrology, especially the astrology going on this week, which I will go over in our downtime. And then also, I have my cards here. I just had the intuition that maybe we should pull out some cards. This is a really great deck. For anybody who's not watching the video, this is the Star Spinner Tarot deck. What I like about this tarot deck is it actually has a lover's card for every possible couple. And I do find that the different ones will show up. And even if it's not with my own particular alignment or where I fall on the spectrum of gender and sexuality, it does still make sense. And it's really cool when that happens. So let me know in the chat, yay cards, if you want me to pull a card for us this week as well. Maybe I can incorporate this in. For people who don't know, I have started revamping the way I do consultations, which are available on my website now. I've revamped the way I do it to bring in a little bit more magic, a little bit more in addition to astrology. You will get all of the faculties that I have at my disposal. And you can also actually request some personal spell work now. So check out my website for that as well. Cool. Let's do the card pull. It looks like that's where we want to be this week. Good thing I pulled out the cards. All right. So this is a tarot deck. It's very pretty, but it is based on tarot. So we've got that more structured, couple different suits kind of situation going on. And you guys get to see in real time how bad I am at shuffling cards when it comes to tarot. Hello, Angela and Danny. Good morning. So excited to see you guys here. All right. So I'm one of those people that because I'm actually kind of skeptical at base level of intuitive stuff, especially when it's not in my control. Rocio, hi, and Christina. I actually am pretty skeptical when it comes to this kind of stuff. So I will try my best always to not let a card fall out of the deck because my hands are also really terrible. So this one tried to jump out of the deck. I'm going to say that that's probably something that we can look into. And it is the Three of Coins, which is really interesting. If you guys watched the live last week, it's the Three of Coins and it did come out reversed. So one of the things I like about this, and I'm going to show it to you, if we were to look at it upright, it would look like this. In the Star Spinner Tarot deck, we have an individual who seems to be rubbing a lamp, and the genie coming out of it is dropping down onto him 3 pentacles. The genie, whatever gender they may be, is also upside down on the card. So when it is inverted, it's almost like the genie is dreaming up the person who is rubbing the lamp, which is really cool to think about. So, yeah, now that we've kind of looked into that, knowing that we did get it from the genie's perspective, this is really pertinent for what we are experiencing this week with the astrology. So it gives me a really good segue. And I do see that we have some questions coming in too. You guys, I got you. No worries. Jenny, I will let you know as soon as I finish with my first interpretation here or jumping in here. So when we look at this card and compare it to the astrology this week, which I always love, right? Here is more confirmation that whatever divination you use, it's going to speak to you. Whatever speaks to you the most is going to get the message to you. That's the point. So kind of to the question that Jenny is asking of, do I prefer tarot or oracle? I prefer tarot because my brain works better with structure. So I really like that I have some symbolic language to begin working with. And a lot of that symbolic language associates very directly with astrology and numerology and all of those things. So it makes it easier for me to create the language, to translate the message. But Oracle is also awesome because if it's easier for you to translate it, if it's easier for you to understand it, then that's what it should be, right? This is just going to show the fact that this card coming out in the inverse even represents really well, not only the real-time transits of this week. Now we discussed real-time versus metaphorical time on last week's live. So I recommend checking that out. And I have a very brief clip on my social media platforms that explain to you how this works. But real time, we have Venus moving into Aries this week, and then she is going to immediately meet up with Neptune. This is going to be very important as I go into the interpretation of why this card here, matches so well with the astrology. The metaphorical time for the United States right now is also quite pertinent when we think about the pentacles and the fact that we are also in Taurus season now. So pentacles are an earth element in tarot, and I can associate that with Taurus season, which is ruled by Venus, who is moving into Aries, the sign of her detriment. So not as tangible, a little bit more imaginary, even more to the imaginary. We find Venus conjoining Neptune in Aries this week. So you see where I'm kind of getting at here. I'm going to make this applicable in just a second, but I want to finish saying what I was going to say about our metaphorical timing. When we take mundane or world astrology and we look at the Aries ingress, the moment that the sun comes into Aries, where the sun is exalted and begins a new zodiacal year, which happened on March 20th this year, when we take that for the location that we are at, or if we're trying to do it for a larger kingdom or nation, we do it for the capital of that nation, which I did for Washington, D.C. I have the full Aries overview video on my YouTube. You can check it out there. If you are a student in the Modern School of Ancient Wisdom, we have a 30 pages and growing document that explains all of it and is capturing dates and significant things as they happen. And so in this metaphorical timing, we take the chart, much like we do. We're going to talk next week about solar return charts because it's my birthday next week. So I'm going to show you how that works. But much like we do with a solar return chart or even a birth chart, we're going to take that moment and say, if this is continuing to live, which it is, hi, we're here. If this is continuing to live, how is it evolving? How does it grow? How does it bloom over time? And so we use this in what we call metaphorical time. We pull the thread with what we call timing techniques. And in those timing techniques, we can use that for the world as well in mundane or world astrology from the Aries ingress of each year to say, what is the world up to? And what does that mean for us? What is the weather doing? And do I need a jacket? So when we came to the second month of the new year, which if the year started on March 20th, the second month started on April 20th, we come into the second house year of the Aries ingress chart. Sorry, the second house month of the Aries ingress chart, which is finances. So again, we can see the pentacles showing up in metaphorical time this time. And so thank you guys for the early shout outs for my birthday. I appreciate you so much. So now we see even more so where these pentacles might be showing up. Now that second sign in the second house of the Aries ingress, that happens to be Pisces. Pisces, which in it at the time had Saturn and Neptune. So Saturn of structures, of contracts, of agreements, of the way things are established and of our foundations, and Neptune dissolving all of those things. So now we get to see again what we have on our card, the genie on the bottom, more anchored, more in control of the tangible things that are now on top of the card. So if the genie is in control and we are having to change our definitions, change the way we visualize or imagine our definitions of abundance, our definitions of where that abundance comes from, our definitions of our own foundations and what success looks like and how we decide to measure it. Do we view abundance as financial? Do we view it as material? Or do we view it as community? And that's another thing that we can think about. So now I have shown you how this random card we drew corresponds directly not only to the transiting planets that we are experiencing this week, but also to the metaphorical timing unwinding for the United States this week as well. Now, how would I put this into an interpretation? Most of what I've already said. My big thing that I have noticed in my personal life, in the life of my friends, and in things that are going on is that we are in a position now where we are having to change definitions, where we are having to change what we thought our definitions of success were, where because of greater things that are at work, because of greater systems that are undergoing change, and yes, great systems right now all over the world, not just in the US, are undergoing deep and structural change that's going to look different moving forward. And they have been since, I'm sure it's not going to surprise you, 2020. We are in this period of change and redesigning our world. In redesigning the world, we have to blue sky our situation. Blue sky is what Pixar does whenever they're starting a new story. They say, if anything can happen, what could happen? What are we going to put out there first? Then they follow the one that gives them the most inspiration and they go from there. And so in our lives right now, we may be finding that with our fungible, tangible, material abundance feeling a little bit wonky, less certain. Uranus is still in Taurus until I think it's in June. It'll move for a little bit of time into Gemini, causing even more change to come for us. But we've gone through this period of time where we have to redefine what safe, secure, and supported looks like for us. And we can see that there's a lot coming together right now during this week saying, hey, this is the week where something happens that may not feel super abundant. This is the week where something happens where we catch our breath a little bit and think, man, what would it look like if I had to name something that you might be a little bit nervous about here. And I can also tell you from personal experience that a lot of percent of the time, imagining what you would do actually helps you avoid it altogether. I had a situation last week, and I'm going to be a little bit vulnerable about this. Don't worry, I'm fine. But I had a situation last week where I had to imagine a scenario that I have been dreading for months. It is probably the thing that I would fear the most if you asked me in this moment. And it came very close to feeling real, and not only real, but inevitable for me. And in that moment where I had to accept that this could be my reality, I also had to accept that there will be a day after that decision, a day after whatever that thing would be, that event. And on the day after that, what would I do? Where would I be? What would I allow my life to look like? How would I still find happiness, even in new circumstances? Even if it wasn't a choice that I wanted to make, but was made because of circumstances around me. We are all feeling this on some level. And I happen to have it a little bit more personally last week, hopefully, so that I could learn a lesson that's going to be valuable for you as well. When I made the decision of what I would do in that worst case scenario and how I would continue anyway, I then said, I understand that this is what I will do if this is what happens. And also, if there is some kind of alternative, I accept either way. I am willing to just do what is necessary and to do whatever is supposed to happen because I understand that my path is going to lead to something and I will make the most of it. So then I asked for a sign, as I always do. I'm working with a new guide recently, and we're getting to know each other quite well and quickly. And so I said to that guide, I'm going to need some confirmation. I'm going to need some, like a sign. Make it easy. If this is the path that you want me to go to, give me the resources that I can follow to make that happen. And if this is the path that I'm following, give me reassurance on that. By the very next day, I had the reassurance. And you guys, at least for now, the thing I was very afraid of does not seem like it's going to be my reality. However, I know now that I have nothing to be afraid of for that reality if it does come. So, will you survive the thing that feels like the worst thing ever? Absolutely. My phone just went off. But also, being able to say that you will, giving yourself permission to see past that is a huge power move for yourself. And so having the vision, the little genie down here, realizing you're the one with the magic and the material falls into place when you set up your alignment and your vision. And sometimes your vision isn't just what you desire, it's the vision of what could be and what is possible in the circumstances you are given. In that situation, I hope that you find that even if it feels a little upside down right now, you can be like this person still rubbing on the lamp and saying, I still have dreams, I still have wishes, and I still believe that they can come true. And I'm still connected to something that makes me able to dream. And by the way, that power is associated with me and I'm a big part of it. So that is our card pool for this week. I hope that was fun. Let me know what you think about that, either live here in the comments. I'm going to catch up now on some questions. Or if you're watching this replay and the podcast episode, I hope that it resonated for you as well. Yeah, so that was really fun. Cool. All right, catching up here. Danny and Angela and Rocio and Liz have joined us. So great to see you guys. Russ is recommending Star Codes Astro, which is an oracle deck that's just all astrology pieces. That's something I'm definitely going to be looking into. I love that. People being very kind and wishing me a happy birthday. Russ also saying that this is fascinating and wonderful. Yay! I hope that you did get some form of popcorn, even if it was just energetic. Liz, I hope you're having a safe commute to work. Fantastic. Okay, so I do believe I answered Jenny's question about my preference on oracle decks and tarot decks, so we're good on that one as well. Um, what gives you the most inspiration right now? Amber, let me know if that was a question from someone or yours to other people. I think you were summarizing what I was saying. I was channeling, so I've already forgotten some of what I was saying. So that's great. Um, yeah, okay. I'm really glad that some of what I said does seem to be really helpful. The growth after the event is incredibly life changing. Rocio, I know that you are someone who is incredibly strong, and I believe you when you say that as well. Um, yeah, the day after phrase is something that I have had to remind myself of many times. Fun fact, if you're someone who's like, I'm afraid of my astrology chart because when astrologers look at it, they cringe. I am someone who has a chart that astrologers cringe so much they're studying it. So the good news is I didn't come in here for an easy time. I came in here to learn things in a way that I can alchemize into lessons to hopefully help you have an easier time, or to at least help you find ways to find the best of whatever circumstances there are around you. So I'm really grateful for my challenged fortune. Mostly because I've been able to use it to help a lot of people, and that is fulfillment to me. So it's really not a bad life. It's just the obstacle course of life. And by the way, guys, I love a good obstacle course. So that Taurus sun of mine is really coming through when I talk about that. Also, the fact that the sun in my chart is ruled by Venus. Yes, I am having a Venus return right now. And she's about to be my Time Lord too. So we're going to get to know each other quite well. And I have a feeling she's got some notes on the way that I have portrayed her in the past that I'll be learning more about. Um, yeah, cool. So I'm just catching up again some more here. The worst thing is a hard thing to see past. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, guys. I'm so glad that that was valuable for you guys. The affirmation that Emily shared of I trust the universe is something that I will be saying. Yeah. So Emily is saying a lot recently. I trust that the universe, I trust in the universe more than I trust what's happening around me. I trust in the universe more than I trust in, my fear. That's a very good affirmation. Thank you for bringing it up, Jenny. Um, Greg's having a Monday. Yeah, it is. It's quite a Monday. We're still in that Taurus new moon energy. How are you guys feeling? Because where is Taurus in your chart? First of all, is a really great place to start. I did post a video on the Taurus full moon or new moon as well. So that's up too. Do you forget what you say when you're channeling a lot? Christina, yes, I do. Cool. Okay, cool. So Amber asked what inspires me the most, which I will get to because I have to think about that one. While I'm thinking about it, I'm going to answer Christina's question about do I forget what I'm channeling when I do. So what happens when I'm channeling is often that I will say stuff and it just feels like it slips out of my brain faster than my mouth and my brain can process it together. Um, so it'll just come out. And so that's why a lot of the times in a conversation, I will make sure to let people know that I have switched from talking to them like a friend or a consultant into this is channeled so that if something comes out a little bit too fast or in a language that their guides might be using instead of me, that way they can differentiate. It's really important to me that a client or anybody I'm dealing with knows that this is channeling, this is just from the astrology, this is just from looking at the card or symbolism, and this is me as a human being relating to you. I think, again, I always cite my sources, even when they are all coming from the same voice box, which is mine, especially then. I have had energies, deities, angels, whatever come through and say things that are super blunt to people that I would not be that blunt with. And I ask permission first. And I've had on occasion to tell a guide to sit down and be nicer because I wouldn't say things that guide was saying. So it does happen. And I truly believe that for me, the reason that I forget a lot of the time is because it's none of my business. A lot of the time when I'm channeling things, it is a very personal situation for the person I'm channeling for. And also, I only have one brain. And while our brains are fantastic and can store a lot of information, some of the stories just aren't necessary for me to remember. And some of them belong to the people who are hearing them and receiving them. So, yeah. Russ says, following on the advice from Emily Short about the new moon, I did a cleansing transformation seeking ritual last night. Fire is good. Fire is fun. Fire is fun. From one Scorpio rising to another, Russ. Yes, fire is fun stuff. Um, and it's funny because, Scorpio is a water sign, just for anybody who's wondering, but it is ruled by Mars, who is actually a nighttime planet, but is hot and dry by nature. So fire can be with Mars. Um, yeah, it's complicated when you get into the planets and getting to know them and getting to know their qualities, but like so are people. So I like to think of it that way too. Um, so yes, Christina, short answer, especially when I'm doing a consultation for someone else one-on-one, I am almost certainly going to forget what was said. And a lot of the time the channeling comes through so fast, it's almost hard for me to capture. I've had to ask people what I've said before because it's not necessarily my idea either. So if it didn't come from my brain, maybe it just doesn't have a place there. Things to think about. Yeah. The fire signs. It's the fire water, Rocio. Yeah. Yeah, we could call Scorpio the fire water. Though I would say the alcohol of the zodiac might be actually Neptune, but that's for the results of the alcohol, not for the heat of the alcohol. So we'll see. I guess maybe Neptune would be more wine, where Scorpio would be something a little bit more directly alcohol, high alcohol content. I don't drink, so I really cannot give you a lot of good examples except for Bulgarian rakia, which I was made to drink when I was in Bulgaria a couple times, and I never got used to it. So I probably will not do that much again. We don't get along, alcohol and I. My Mars is in Pisces, though, which is something. Vodka or tequila. Thank you, Jenny. Needed that. Yeah. Scorpio is napalm. Sure. I'm going to take your word for that, Russ. Cool. So, you guys, we covered a lot of ground thanks to that card. I'm really impressed. I'm super excited about that. So that was really fun. Is there anything else that anybody wants to talk about while we're on this live? I've got a solid 15 minutes left that I'd be happy to really go into things. I think Scorpio's definitely tequila. Liz, I like your takes. Cool. Does anybody else have anything that they think about it? Have you heard anything? This is my favorite thing to ask. Have you heard anything on social media astrology this week that you would like deeper clarity on? Whether it's this week or has there been an astronomy app promising something and you're like, what does that mean astrologically? Or have you heard anything from spiritual social media that you're like, is that real? Because I will say, one of the things that we have to be careful about with Venus coming into Aries this week with Neptune there is kind of wanting to take action on things that maybe aren't actually as real of a vision as we would like them to be. Christina says, you're the only one I care to listen to on astrology. I appreciate you. And trust me, I don't take that lightly. I do my very best to maintain and continue to grow integrity when it comes to what I'm sharing with you. Am I going to be able to see the celestial smile? So that should be coming up if there is the celestial smile. And remembering that location also has something to say about this. If you see the celestial smile, which what they're talking about, and I have seen this, is I believe they're talking about it's going to be near the moon. I need to update this to today because I was studying eclipses this morning. So the celestial smile comes when the moon is just a sliver of light. So just after that new moon that we had recently, that we had yesterday. So tonight or tomorrow, you'll see that smile of a moon, sort of that Cheshire cat grin. And around the moon, you might see, I'm guessing they're talking about Jupiter. What, Jupiter and Mars? I thought they were talking about Venus. Maybe they're talking about Venus and Saturn. But you'll see two planets above the moon. And so they're saying that there might be a smile formation. I don't see why not. The planets are in a position to do that, but remember, it may be lopsided for you. So go out, check it out if you have a clear sky. Take a picture of it. Let me know. I'll try to see if I can remember tonight after dark to go out. Sunset is happening around 8 p.m. if you're in East Coast time. right now. Well, I guess that would translate pretty well. But yeah, so on the East Coast, I know that where I am, sunset is occurring around 8 p.m. So you want to wait for the moon to come out, which is going to be, again, kind of rough. The only thing I will say, it may not actually be tonight. We need 15 degrees, so we only have 10. I would recommend probably tomorrow night, while the moon is further away from the sun, because you need the sun to actually set so you can see the moon and the stars. And so as long as it gets dark enough, yes, that's my answer to that. That's actually more of an astronomy situation, because astrologically, it doesn't mean much that we see a smile for the moon, but it is really cute. So there's nothing wrong with it at all. Um, yeah, cool. Let me go down here. I've heard a lot about yesterday's new moon, that it was going to be terrible for April 27th. So April 27th was yesterday, which was the new moon. What you are probably hearing is in regards to the fact that this new moon was square to the Mars Pluto opposition. So the Mars Pluto opposition has been getting a lot of attention over this last week. Mars, god of war, Pluto, transformation, destruction, rebirth, that kind of stuff. They tend to get pretty testy when they come into contact with each other. When we had them have their conjunction in 2022 in around March, I believe, that was the day that Russia went into Crimea. So I'm just going to put that out there as objectively as I can. I have opinions on this, trust me. But as an astrologer, we are a witness to history. So what I'm going to tell you without bias one way or another, that was when one country did go into another country uninvited. And so and that's what happened. And so, of course, over the weekend, my attention was focused to that topic. What's going on with that war that is happening? And we did have some updates on that, as you can investigate if you look into the headlines as well. So, yes, it was a rough day on a global scale, right? Pluto is transpersonal, that brings in the world to the conversation. Everybody's talking about it. In 2020, COVID was associated with a Pluto Saturn conjunction. The world was definitely talking about that one. And then the moon makes things more personal too. And so, what did we have over the weekend? We also had a funeral that a lot of people were feeling personally. And during that funeral of the Pope, we had discussions about the war going on between Russia and Ukraine. Again, I have opinions for how those conversations went based on things that videos I've seen, headlines I've read, but those are my opinions, and I am an individual. That's not necessarily what the astrology is focused on. So that's something to dive into as well. The ethics that astrology reveals. Like if you have a malefic involved in a story and something happens with a certain group, nation, individual, or whatever on that day, does that make that person or that entity wrong? That's something that I like to think about. I do not have solid answers, but just know it's something that I am investigating. Yeah. So to that end, Amber, yeah, you could say that that's one of the reasons. Now, that's the most rational reason I can come up with for what astrologers on social media may have been saying about this new moon. Um, Likely, if they were talking about you having a bad time personally, they were relating it to the moon, right? You want to be careful about if you thinking about the moon in Taurus, right? The moon is exalted in Taurus, loves it there. And Taurus does things like food, resources, nature or natural things, the fungible, intangible items that we exchange with each other, the things that we use to support our livelihood, those material resources that make us feel sustained. So if there was challenge to that in some way, just know that you're not the only one feeling it. And this is a time where those things are feeling challenged across the globe. So it doesn't mean that you're doing something necessarily super wrong either, just because it's not one of our favorite feelings. I hope that helps. I'm going through those feelings too. So I know that you are definitely not alone. Um, got M for spirituality, and that's all I need for now too. Yeah, that's awesome. The podcast. Yes, the podcast is one of my favorite things in the world, which is what we're doing right now. So thank you guys for listening and for taking part today. Yeah. It has to do with the moon, and I thought of you for some reason. Maybe it's just because it has to do with the stars. If you think of me when you think of the stars, Jenny, I am flattered and extremely grateful. That is a huge compliment to me. So thank you. I'm so happy to be associated with the stars. Another astrologer mentioned Leo risings, we're going to see rebirth. They are saying that probably because now the planet associated with rebirth is Pluto. Leo risings are having Pluto transiting opposite them right now. So, what I would say is if you're a Leo rising, you're actually dealing more with the Mars situation. So, Mars is in Leo, especially if your rising is in the earlier degrees of Leo right now, between like 0 and 4, you're thinking about Pluto. Um, but Mars right now is also at the 4th degree of Leo and will go through a lot faster. So that's something like Mars being there is something that's going to be something that you feel more viscerally. The fact that Mars was opposing Pluto over the weekend means that something likely between you and a direct other, or you and the way that you hold boundaries, or the standards you have for other people, or the relationships and agreements you've made in your lives, has had the opportunity for change, has had the opportunity for growth, has maybe started feeling different. One of the things that I noticed about Pluto transits, and I was born with Pluto on my ascendant, so I I get asked this a lot. One of the things I've noticed about Pluto transits is you reach a point where you're suddenly okay if it doesn't happen, where you're just like, you know what? I don't need this stress anymore. I'm done. And then you move forward. So if there is something in your life as a Leo rising that has had that happen, especially over the weekend, then these astrologers are probably paying attention to the fact that Pluto and Mars are in a direct opposition in your rising sign. That is where they are likely pulling that from. Um, yeah. So Allison says, I believe my rising sign is Scorpio. Whoop, whoop, me too. I read somewhere it aligns with the resting witch face. And can you comment on that? It could be true, but I'm very protective. Yeah. So I can comment on that. I am a Scorpio rising. I am very often accused. I call it resting witch face. It's a personal choice of mine to avoid cuss words for no other reason than it's my choice. I don't judge anybody about it. Don't hide it around me. You're totally allowed to do it. It's a personal rule I came up with when I was a kid, and I just haven't changed it for myself. Everybody else is fine. But yes, I do have a resting witch face. If you ever see pictures from our from our trips, and this is an example, I'm going to get to it a little bit deeper for what you're asking here, Allison. It was Allison, right? Yeah. Hang on, I want to make sure I don't lose that one. Yeah, Allison, cool. So if you ever see pictures that Em and I are not ready for in our photo albums, Liz, I know you could definitely have a ton of these from Egypt recently, where we're not looking, we're not paying attention. Em has some kind of animated look on her face. She is a Libra rising, and so she is usually doing some kind of look. There's an expression there. For me, I will be totally transparent with you guys. I'm also autistic, so facial expressions for me are a trained thing. And so it's not that I don't want to use them. It's not that I don't use them for a function of communication. Danny, I bet you'll relate to this too. It's that I use them as a convenience. I use them as a way of communicating even more consciously with other people. And so I do have a resting witch face, and I am a Scorpio rising. Are all Scorpio risings or Scorpio placements going to have autism? No, that's not the case. Those can be mutually exclusive. There are other reasons why one might have a resting witch face as well. I just notice most often I would like to be coming across as more welcoming, and I've got this face. I've got the Saturn face. That is my resting face. So that's why Saturn is so easy for me. So if you have a resting Saturn face, no, Scorpio is not associated with Saturn. However, Scorpio is the fixed water sign. It is still water. It is not moving. Whereas Pisces is mutable, changing like the waves of the ocean, and Cancer is cardinal, like a river going somewhere with direction. We are the lake. we're not even a lake that is a recipient of a river. We're just a lake. It stays that way. You might even say you're a frozen lake. And so with that, there is a stoic sort of face. There's also a level of, what motivation do I have to extend this gesture to someone. I was thinking about this morning about levels of trust and how it's not that I don't want to trust people, it's that I meet people where they meet me, and then over time decide if I want to go further with that or if I want to pull back on it. And it is very easy for me to be a hermit crab and go right back out if I feel like I've gone a little bit too generous with trust. So that's about as far as I can say. Also, to the fact that rising signs very much are associated with the physical appearance. So the rising is the first impression. It is what was rising on the horizon when you were born. And therefore, it's the first impression that you had as well. And so you have this energy of that in you. So I come across not very Taurus like. I come across more, especially because my moon is also in Scorpio. So I've got like a double dose going on. But I come across more Scorpio than people would expect looking at my chart first. So I hope that that kind of helps explain that a little bit, Alyssa. Yes, there is explanation. And no, you don't owe anybody a smile, but the people you give smiles to are lucky. So hopefully that helps. Um, cool. Great questions, you guys. I appreciate you so much. I've got a couple more minutes, so I'm going to dive into the rest of the questions here. Speaking of the moon, I pulled out my moon cards and I swear the pictures are different. My memory can't be that bad. I've had them for a while. Maybe just my impression of them changed. That's definitely a possibility. And also, I would tap in, Christina, to your own intuition and ask yourself, what did they look like then? When was that? What's changed for you since then? I don't personally have a lot of direct interaction with the timeline situations that go on according to a lot of people. But it sounds similar to what you're seeing there, if it's sort of Mandela effect-esque. So I would check in with your own intuition on that. Maybe pull a card about it and see if it shows up different. I'm sorry. That it cracked me up. I hope it was funny for you guys too. Rocio is also a Scorpio rising and definitely puts up the guarded face when alone or out in public, but tend to be soft and comfortable to be around. Can confirm Rocio is a delight. Yes. Christina, if you're asking me if I pull cards for myself every day, I actually have an app. I shared it this morning. It's called Labyrinthos, and it pulls 3 cards for me every day and reminds me to look at them. So that was the one piece that I didn't have going for me, was the remembering about it every morning. And now I have it, and it does what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you're doing today. And I really appreciate it, and I like it, and it's been very accurate. There are different levels of investment you can put into it. I'm on the free tier of it, and I'm really enjoying it. It is as robust as I would want it to be, and even more so. They even pull a rune for you each day. Danny, what's the card deck that you're doing really well with? It's a more of a storytelling kind of style, named after some person who came up with it. If anybody knows what it is, put it in the chat and I'll say it out loud. The Lenormand deck is also in there. It pulls a couple cards for you for the day. So yes. Ren says that Canada has a federal election today. If you wanted to pull a chart up, what would you do? So if you have an election for today, and I do this for the United States as well, you want to look at a couple things when you're trying to understand the outcome of an election. First, you want to use the capital of your country. So that's where you would cast the chart for. That's the first thing. When becomes an entirely different story. So the day of elections, when people are making the choice, is really interesting. But if you have an inauguration kind of process, whatever that process is for you, it's also really fascinating to cast the chart for the location and the time of the inauguration, or whatever that process is for you, and to look at the charts of the people who could potentially make it, who's running for this position, and which one is best suited for that chart. That is one thing. Who has the best transits on the day of that inauguration, and does it work out well for them? I also go deeper by going into the timing techniques of the people who are running and seeing, like, are they having a good year overall? Are these planets that are doing really important things doing important things for them too? So it really depends. And in this situation, the best results come from going beyond the chart, or beyond the surface level chart. So if you're having your election today, when would this person come into office officially? When is that ceremony? And how does that chart for that day and that location, how does that fit with the chart The natal chart, sure, but if you can, doing the personal timing for the individuals involved. This is why you get like 50-page documents of astrologers trying to figure it out. I had my own for our election last year. The people in the Modern School of Ancient Wisdom know that I was updating it incessantly, and still my hopes were different than the results. So yeah. So you want to look for, do they have a really well situated Jupiter or, the benefic planets, which are Venus and Jupiter? They're both going to be in detriment by the end of this week. Venus is currently still exalted. So I would look at where Venus is and what's she doing. She's also still next to Saturn. So that is about government. So you want to look at the sign of Pisces, see if that's really good in somebody's chart. But again, that's only for today. If it's within the next month or two, I think it's going to be June before either Venus or Jupiter get into their better signs, each of them. Until then, they're both going to be in detriment. So it's really hard just globally right now to have the benefics do benefic things because they're both hindered. So you want to look at that kind of stuff. How are the transits for them? And if you can, go into what we were talking about before about the metaphorical timing. Who's their time lord? What's it doing? What's more well situated? Another technique of astrology you could do is cast the chart for the moment where you are right now and do horary, which is basically using an astrology chart, kind of like a tarot card, and deriving the meaning from that, from the chart of the moment where you are asking the question, and then see from there. That's a whole other school of learning in astrology, but it is really cool. And somehow, it still works. So if you're looking for something today, when I need like quick answers and I don't have a lot of dates in mind, I will go to horary and see what I can pull from that. I will warn you though, just like tarot cards will mock you for asking too many questions or not the right question, horary does the same thing. Horary mocks me all the time. So that's something to keep in mind. Maybe resting witch face is just your personal shield. Christina, that is also a thing, right? Again, if you don't owe anybody anything, it's saying, I'm open for business. I'm ready to talk to people. I'm prepared to be social, or no, I'm not. Please leave me alone. I'm reading a book right now. So those are things to keep in mind. You have very good boundaries and standards. They're not always a bad thing. Yeah. Yes. Liz, we both have the Saturn face in photos sometimes. It's not a bad thing. Jenny says, I have a Scorpio sun and people think I don't like them when I meet them at first. I have that for my Scorpio rising. I can relate. It's not that I don't like them. I just don't know them. One of my favorite lines from a movie is from Princess Diaries, where Lily is trying to catch up with Mia and Michael. And she's running and she's like, wait up, wait for me. And someone looks at her and she goes, not you. I don't even know you. That is such a vibe. So I think that's quite Scorpio if you wanted to get into it. Yes, cool. Yeah. Yeah. And look at how many people know about the Lenormand. Yay. I love the image of people poring over charts, talking about elections. It fills me up in some way. I love being one of the people that pores over charts. It gives me something to do to fill the time when I'm anxious, if I'm totally honest. So another app recommendation from Melissa is Moonly, which is also free and includes a 3-card pool, a single card, and a rune pool, along with moon and astrology information and a bit more that Melissa doesn't always use. I always get cynical of moon and astrology information, but also if someone like me were actually savvy making those, give it a shot. I'm certainly not going to say don't do that. That sounds awesome. Galaxy Tarot has a widget for the card of the day. Cool. Yeah. Not you. I don't even know you. See? Yeah. Okay. So I have time for maybe one more question. Kay, you're a Leo rising. You've had multiple people tell you they were intimidated by you when they first met you. The rest of your chart has a lot to say too, especially if you look at where the sun is. So if you're a Leo rising and the sun is in Aquarius, that's a Saturn ruled sign. So yeah, they might be intimidated, but also like the sun has no choice but to shine, right? The sun can't really be occluded unless there's an eclipse. It is the one shining. It is the one making it possible for literally all the other planets to be visible to us. That can be intimidating, but you know what? Someone's got to shine. Someone has to put that light out there or nobody gets it. So I appreciate that about Leos. Yeah, Ren, I am sending you all of the best, most positive energy that I can. It would be really great if the outcome came the way that you want it to, because I agree with you. For anybody who's listening and isn't able to see the comments, you know where I stand. It's totally fine. I think fascism's bad. So great. Yeah, here's hoping. I'll be watching the headlines and thinking of you. Uh, do you ever get frustrated with how the astrology and history play out together? I get frustrated that history doesn't do the best version of what the astrology makes available. I really do. Yeah. Sometimes, like when you think about a lot of people talking about Aquarian energy, right? Lots of people are talking about that. As much as Aquarian energy can be liberating and equitable and all of those things, it can also be very authoritative. And I mean, fill in my blanks there for me, I guess, but I really would prefer the equitable side of Aquarius for us. And we've got time for that. And hopefully those of us who would prefer it come together and unite ourselves enough to make that a possibility for everybody. Yeah. Uh, Even though it's for Alchemist Inkwell, do we get a rant today? We're not going to do a rant today, but I have a list. I have a list of rants that I am prepared to do. And if you have requests for rants, please put them in the comments. Please let me know about them. I will add them to my list. I will even research them to make sure that my rants are educated and worth listening to, but also accurate as much as I can be. So the sun being in Aries, Kay, would also make it exalted. So everything I said about it burning and shining and all those things, add 10 points to that, which means you're amazing. And for what you do, I think that's perfect. People will know that they can trust you to be a good leader and to know how to have visibility and discernment, which is fantastic. Um, cool. Recently cut your hair, trying to get some older energy and traits. I am so behind haircutting. I will cut my hair all the time, grow it out a little bit, and just cut it again just for the change. But that's my Scorpio rising as well. I want to transform how I look all the time, as you can see with the choices I have made. Yeah, cool. So thank you. I do have a list for rants. I will get to them. We will have a rant next week in honor of my birthday. Why not? Venus being in Aries, I have plenty to rant about. So I'm really glad you guys like the rants as well. So I will look forward to that. Again, if there's something about theology, astrology, spirituality, the world, just literally anything, put it out there. If I feel qualified to rant on it, to give you good information that will break down some gates where they've been put up to block you from understanding and knowledge and feeling good about yourself, I will certainly do that. So with that, I hope that you take the energy of this week and that you have an amazing time, that you use the energy of Venus with Neptune and Aries to decide that anything is possible and you can create physical stuff out of your desires and your dreams, which is totally a way that we could use this. And that you say it with me, guys. 1, 2, 3. Go make some magic. Thank you so much. The podcast will be back next week, and I will be here still doing my live. So you will get both. Have a great week, everybody. I appreciate you.